Hi guys, welcome to the fifth episode of In the Spotlight, an Instagram live series where India's top athletes will motivate and inspire all of us. Today we have with us Olympic medalist, multiple Grand Slam champion, and Indian tennis icon. Welcome, Leander.
What's up, Mowgli? How you doing?
I'm
For all you
doing
guys
well.
out there who have no idea why Mowgli, because this is Mudit, my young Indian brother, who is an aspiring Olympic champion, who I've given one of my nicknames, Mowgli from Jungle Book.
Thank you for that. I think I'm very lucky to have the same nickname as you. So why don't we start off today by talking about how and when you started playing tennis?
Man, I had a lot of pressure on me, Mudit, when I was a kid. I grew up to two parents who were champions. My mom, captain India in basketball, as you know, and dad got a
Yeah,
medal in field hockey in the '72 Olympics. So
yeah,
it was just obvious that I played sport in school. But what was really interesting was the fact that as much as I kept in school in soccer, cricket, hockey, athletics, swimming, my real passion was in football. But at the age of 12, I had to switch over from football, soccer into tennis because just like yourself, I wanted to be an Olympic champion and emulate my dad.
yeah. And as you said, you come from a very rich history of sports in your family. Did were you ever tempted to play hockey or any other sport? And do you enjoy playing any other sports right now?
I love every single sport. Apart from the
Yeah,
few that I mentioned, soccer was my first love. I always dreamed about coming up from an underground locker room in a World Cup football match and 100,000 people in the stadium, just like at Eden Gardens, where I grew up in Kolkata, just
yeah,
with my name on my back, Leander right back there, and the
yeah.
whole stadium just going crazy, shouting, come on, India, and playing to that crowd, and winning the World Cup for India. But back in the 80s, in soccer, we didn't even make the Asian Games. So it was kind of tough to actually go to the World Cup or make the Olympics back then. So that's why I switched from soccer to tennis.
That's very interesting. And as you mentioned, you were always into sports, and you were actually very successful at the junior level. You won the junior Wimbledon, the junior US Open. You were the world number one as well in juniors. And then you played the Olympics at the age of 19, where you even reached the quarterfinals. So talk us through those remarkable young days.
Damn, Mowgli, you've done your homework. Well done. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the guys out there know my history from 1990. I won Junior Wimbledon. I got to number one in the world. I won US Open in '91, if I'm not mistaken. But really, there are a few little landmarks, Mowgli, in my life that have stood out. One was on the 12th of May, 1986. I was a 12-year-old, just shy of my 13th birthday, and I gave up football and I moved to Madras, which is now known as Chennai, because my father found the best tennis academy there. And I that year, my 1986 was a big year for me, where I embarked to learn how to play tennis. And I spent 5 years there, worked really hard until I got to number one in the world. But then from there, I had to make a choice either to go to college in America, just like you did. That's something I want to turn the tables and ask you a couple of questions because you went to college in one of our two favorite cities in the world, both of our
Yeah,
favorite city in the world, in
yeah,
New York.
yeah.
And I've got a few scars from there, which I'll tell you about when we're done with this. But long story short is um, 1990, after being number one in the world, I got a scholarship to Stanford, UCLA, USC, to NYU, to Columbia, and to Florida
Yeah.
and to Harvard. And when I went and visited the campuses just to, check the place out, and we had these athlete runs that we would do in terms of like orientation, I fell in love with the West Coast. I thought that either UCLA or Stanford would just be phenomenal to go to. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I also thought that if I went to college with all the fun times, the beaches, the campuses, the liquor, the lifestyle that they had there, maybe that I would go, a different way in my career. So I decided to turn professional, and just shy of my 18th birthday, I moved to Florida and I went to tennis academy there.
And I think this is one of the most difficult phases that we're going to talk about now. How did your junior days set up for your seniors?
Whew, you and I have a lot of conversation, like, about these times because I think that, the expectations that we create when we are NCAA champions in table tennis or when we're number one in the world in junior tennis, the expectations that people set about us that we're already going to be world number one in the seniors or we're already going to be professional. And I think that
Yeah,
that transition is what we really miss out in India. I think that college tennis or college sport take a lot of our talent. I have tremendous respect for what you do because not only did, as a young Indian boy, persevering in table tennis, which is an individual sport, very expensive to travel, to get training, to have good coaching, and then you went to America and studied at NYU, and then from there you are doing your online studies as well as conducting your pro career. To me, that is really where kids should go, where the youngsters should go. I see that in tennis, a lot of our talent, a lot of our really, really good talent gets drawn into collegiate sport. Um, I could sit down and rattle off probably 30 names in both the boys and the girls, where from post 18 years old, when they finish with their junior career, they've gone on to college in America. And I think that this Title IX that we have, equal scholarships for girls as equal scholarships for boys, is fantastic. And I'm really proud to be a part of tennis, a profession that actually has equal rights and equal pay and equal scholarships. I think it's fantastic.
yeah, for sure. I think college sport is a very intermediate stage, I would say, between the juniors and the seniors, and something that more athletes should surely take advantage of.
So
And
let me ask you this.
yeah,
You went to NYU, right? And you
uh,
spent a couple of years there. You lived in New York, loved it there. Now you're back home doing online schooling, plus playing tournaments, plus traveling the world. What's the one thing that you would say that was special about college?
so I'm gonna keep this short because I'd love to talk more, and I think even the viewers would love to hear more from you.
Well, I
But
missed out on college, and that's why I asked.
I think just generally the whole sense of community. We are not a big campus school, I would say, but still I would feel some sense of community, even if it's not directly from college, but just having my closest friends, many of them who are watching right now and sort of saying go NYU.
Yeah,
But
I just saw, was that Zara?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, so many of them, and I think that sort of community and that sort of friendship and the bonds I've created over there is something that really helps me unwind, helps me have something different from professional sport. So I think that's something that's really, really helped me.
Man, I think that NYU is one of the best campuses in the world. One, it's an in-city campus. It's
Yeah,
right
yeah.
downtown Manhattan. Having lived in New York for 4 years, it's just one of the most magical cities. The energy of New York is phenomenal. When I first went there as an 18-year-old, I used to live up in Westchester, and
Yeah.
we've talked about
Which
how
is
similar our lives have been, and your young life coming up, and I have no doubt in my mind you're going to make the Olympics and be one of the best in your profession, but it's just a matter of time. But growing up in New York, I mean, that whole Grand Central Station with the clock and coming in on the Metro North into Grand Central Station, I used to transfer over to Penn Station, and then from there take the LIRR out to Port Washington where I trained. And one such morning in 1991, in the winter of 1991, I actually got mugged right at
no.
Grand Central Station, right in the station, below the steps. You know where the clock is?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
below the
right.
steps
Yeah.
on the left.
Yeah.
Just under there, there was a little ATM, and back then you could pull out what? I think it was like not even $100 a day, on your ATM card. But I was definitely being watched, and our tennis bags and stuff are all kind of fancy and all bright with these colors. And I got mugged in Grand Central Station back in the winter of '91. I got a scar right down here on my chest to actually prove it. But
So
yeah,
you
but
got
New York was rough back then.
how exactly did that mugging happen? Did they use a knife or what was it
Yeah,
exactly?
it was a bottle of hooch. The guy had a bottle
Nice.
of hooch in a brown bag, and he was actually watching me. So as I put my pin in the ATM, and the money came out, I suddenly felt something on my chest. And as I tried to turn around, he kind of stopped me and he kind of, said, "Give me the money." And I'm like, "Go take it." Now I do martial arts. So I just wanted him to get his right hand off my chest because I wasn't sure what the weapon was. But as he went to reach for the money, because I said, "Go take it yourself. I can't move." And as he went to reach for it, he took that sharp object which was on my left side, on my left chest. He took it off and he went to get the money, and that's when I hit him and I got him on the ground. And I sat on him, and basically I didn't realize I got a cut. So when the cops came and handcuffed him and took him away, they basically looked at me and said, "Son, what's up with your chest?" and I looked
Yeah.
down, and my whole tennis shirt was completely filled on blood. So they stitched me up on the corner of 42nd and Lex, just outside Grand Central there. But yeah, it was a crazy memory. Back then, Hell's Kitchen was still alive. You know, the all the Harley gang was out there
Yeah. Yeah.
in NYU campus, and you know, yeah, New York was rough back then. Mayor Giuliani hadn't yet cleaned it up, but it was tough days back then in the late 80s, early 90s in New York. But what a great city. I love it.
Yeah, I think everyone loves the energy of it, but I think you were also completely smashing people on the court as well as off the court. And by the age of 23 at the 96 Olympics, you actually won the bronze medal, which was a huge achievement and a huge moment for you in your career. So what were your preparations and how did you feel after winning that medal?
So in '92, I got to the quarterfinals in the doubles with Ramesh Krishnan. We lost to Goran Ivanisevic and Goran Pirpic in 4 tough sets. And that was actually for a medal medal. And when you look at 1996, it was the first Olympics where there was a playoff for the bronze medal. So I remember after '92, when I sat on the chair after that hard quarterfinal loss, I thought really hard and deep, and I had a epiphany that if I was to win an Olympic medal, which has been my lifelong dream, that I had to do it in singles. And I trained for 4 years, really, really hard at my singles. I knew that Atlanta, where we were playing in Georgia, we were playing in an altitude location at Stone Mountain. And it's pretty cool because even now when I go back there, they have a big placard with all the champions in tennis. And they got Lindsay Davenport, who won the gold in the women's singles. They got Andre Agassi, gold, Sergio Bruguera, silver, and myself there. My name's written out there in the plaque, which is kind of cool. I mean, now we're sitting in Mumbai today in lockdown, but I still know that far away in America, I create a little bit of history there. And that's the fun part that you and me recognize in as we travel the world. And we are so blessed to have vehicles to create our own history and to put India on the map. So I trained for 4 years. I remember for 2 years just before Atlanta, I went to all these altitude places. I went to Belo Horizonte in Brazil. I went to Quito. I went to Bogota. I went to Cali. I went to Brasilia. And I played in all these Latin American places that were in altitude to get my lungs and my physicality ready for Stone Mountain. So when I won it, when I won my medal, everyone was so surprised, Mowgli, but I wasn't. I
Okay.
knew it was actually coming. I kind of have predicted a little bit, you know, the wins I've had. I've kind of predicted the few things that I've done in my career. I predicted my junior Wimbledon win in 1990. I told my Davis Cup captain, Naresh Kumar. My whole life, I've always felt that I was going to be an Olympic champion. And every Sunday in the mornings, I used to polish my dad's medal. So I'm really, really happy and proud that I was able to put India on the map and win the first Olympic medal in an individual sport
Yeah.
post independence. In fact, I've
So
got something to
actually,
share with you.
nice.
So here is my
No
Beijing
way.
Olympic medal, and I really pray, and I'm going to make sure we're going to get you one of these Olympic ones. And
That's the dream. That's the dream.
there you go.
Wow. That's just it's unbelievable to even see it on the screen. I
There you
can't
go.
imagine what it is to be standing on that podium there and winning it.
It's
Wow.
pretty cool, huh,
Yeah. In fact,
buddy?
we
One
right
day,
now, sorry. Yeah,
one day we're going to show each other our Olympic medals, huh?
that's the dream. In fact, we have with us another Olympian who just commented, who is Devinder Valmiki, who is a field hockey
Mm,
player actually, and Kamlesh Mehta as well, my coach. And
correct.
I think it's the dream of many athletes. I mean, every athlete, I would say, to play at the Olympics. And you were also given the big honor of being the flag bearer in the Sydney Games. So how was that experience of just walking there and being the flag bearer of India?
You know, it's funny as we athletes know, it's so overwhelming sometimes when you actually step out of the situation and you look at it from the outside and you're like, oh my God, I'm walking into the Olympic Stadium and it's going to be packed. And all the other flag bearers from their countries have won like medals multiple times and have played in multiple Olympics. And Sydney, I think, was my third Olympics, if I'm not mistaken. And I had no idea that I would eventually play seven. But even then, I remember like she's being really nervous. And one of the reasons I was nervous was not just in terms of walking in 1.3 billion Indians and representing them, but also the contingent that were behind. But actually, I'd hurt my wrist really badly in Sydney, and I couldn't carry this big flag. You know, the flag's really heavy. So they give you a little, like a little satchel, kind of a waist, like a shoulder band, and where the
Yeah.
flag actually goes into. But because the pole is so long and the flag is so heavy, I mean, you need almost two hands to carry it. And I couldn't use my right hand. So I was so nervous about dropping the flag. Can you imagine? On an
Yeah,
Olympic stage,
of
walking
course.
in there, I would never live it down. So I actually had the satchel loosened so to go a little lower. So I could use
Yeah.
that as like a base. And I used my left hand really high on the flag to actually hold it up to make sure my only concentration was don't drop the flag, whatever you do while you're walking. But it was really, really special. And I think, you know, it's funny. A couple of days ago, I was doing a webinar for the Olympic channel. And no matter all the other 800, 900 trophies that I have, no matter how many times I play with them or I polish them or I hold them up, yeah, I remember the memories and they're all so beautiful. But every time I hold up my Olympic torch, every time I hold my Olympic medals in my hand, man, it gives me like some goosebumps. It's pretty cool for
Yeah.
us to play for such a large community in India.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, we have another Olympic legend who just commented, Gagan Narang, who's on the live. And I think thereafter, after the Sydney Olympics, you also decided to move your focus from the singles to the doubles. And I actually remember watching you play in the 2006 Davis Cup in CCI, India versus Pakistan. What is the main difference actually for tennis in terms of doubles and singles and tactically?
So the difference in singles and doubles is basically the physical effort.
Okay.
When I was playing singles and I had beaten Sampras was it 1998 in the Pilot Pen Championships in New Haven. That was at Yale University, actually, another
Mhm.
great tennis campus. Or when I beat Federer in 2001 in singles. Um, on the court, when you're playing singles, you don't have anybody else to rely on. No matter how much coaching you've got, no matter how much training you've got, no matter how much mental toughness you've done, no matter how much emotional preparation you've done, when you're on the court, you have to find your answers yourself. You have to find your solutions yourself. And I
Yeah.
think that's the most beautiful part uh, that really is kind of been my journey, that I've always had to reinvent myself, whether it's motivation. Once you achieve a certain goal, you got to raise the bar. You achieve that second goal, you raise the bar again. And someone forgot to tell me that the Olympics is every 4 years, not every year. I'm just playing them repeated times after the other. But that motivation is important. When you go out in singles, you got to stay emotionally happy because you don't have any conversations going on. And tennis, you know, very much like table tennis, it's not a time-bound sport. Tennis, best of
Mm.
5 sets, could last anything between 3 hours to 5.5 hours. Some of the Davis Cup matches that I've played against Goran Ivanisevic, or some of the matches that I've played out there, 5 sets, last 5 hours and 30 minutes, 5 hours and 28 minutes. So that emotional comfort where you're really at peace with yourself, the mental stability that you need to have from your day-to-day lifestyle, that's so important to be a champion, especially in singles. In doubles or in a team sport, you got, you know, one guy or 10 other guys if you're playing, you know, soccer or cricket to rely on. You know, yes, maybe sometimes you got to carry them on your shoulder because not every day, as you know, not every day, Mowgli, do you have a good day. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes it becomes tough. Sometimes you're not playing well, but you still got to find a way to win. And for me, I find that growing up in Kolkata, in the Maidan, where I was the mascot of the national hockey team because of my father playing, I actually grew up to understand the nuances of team sport and the difference of an individual sport. So hence I could see what each member on the team was bringing to the team. Some of them were the hard workers. Some of them were the defense, the really tough, strong guys, built really big and strong. And some of them were the wings, really light, fast, quick. You know, their speed was their forte. So I was able to learn from other people to incorporate the magic to be an individual Olympic champion.
Yep. So now we're actually going to move on to some fun and games. It's the rapid fire time. And as you would imagine, you just have to answer as quickly as possible.
Oh boy, that's tough for me.
No, you're quick. Come on, you can get that. You can get that off the court as well. So, what's your favorite Grand Slam?
Wimbledon.
Okay. Most memorable Olympics?
Really. 96 Atlanta.
Okay. Your sporting idols when you were growing up?
Ooh, sporting idols. So there would be Muhammad Ali, there would
Yeah.
be Pele, there would
Okay.
be Michael Jordan. Have you watched The Last Dance?
I'm actually
Tonight's the
gonna start.
final
I'm gonna start.
episode.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my God. I've been actually studying The Last Dance on telling the story that's so long and so beautiful. It's
yeah.
amazing how MJ, I mean, I was managed by Donald Dell, who was with ProServe, who's the same management company as Michael. And I learned a lot of my tricks from them. And I used to travel from Florida, where I was training, up to Chicago to watch Michael play. And I would sit right
Wow.
behind their bench because he had these special seats. And Michael had a really disgusting trick that he would bring when he'd come, play for like 6, 7 minutes, and he would come to the bench to sit. He would just wring the sweat off his shoulder and flick it right at us sitting in the back. Oh, it was classic. But what a champion he is, huh? This one last
You're,
row, I mean, this one last dance that he's doing, the last dance he's doing is unbelievable.
I think you're really lucky to have gotten to see him live, but I'll
Yeah.
surely watch one last dance.
Hey, also talking about Muhammad Ali, am I allowed to digress or are we going
Yeah,
quick
sure,
fire?
sure, sure.
I can, no?
Sure, sure, no.
So
Yeah.
I've been meaning to actually show you this book. I know
Okay.
you love reading. So this book is on Muhammad Ali, and it's a book which is called His Life and Times of Muhammad Ali,
Hmm.
and it's phenomenal what he's written here. He's actually taken interviews not only from his family, not only from his coaches and trainers, but also from his opponents and
That's
his
very
people who have
important.
made a difference in his life. And why I thought of you was one of our favorite arenas. This is the Ali Fraser One over at Madison
Okay.
Square Garden.
Madison Square Garden.
Huh?
Yeah,
MSG,
yeah.
where Penn Station was.
MSG.
This is where
Yeah, right
this
where
is
Penn
where I used
Station
to,
is.
go from Grand Central over to take the train to Port Washington and Long Island. So that was fabulous. Look at that picture. Look at the intensity there, huh?
Yeah, 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 I can see.
And can
Unbelievable.
you imagine? He actually refused to go to Vietnam to fight the war. He actually stood. He put his money where his mouth is, and said that I'm an athlete. I look to bring people together, not to go and kill people on a shore that I don't even know. So for me, people like that who put their money where their mouth is, who stand for a belief of humanity, these are the people that I look up to, and that's why Ali and Pele and Jordan and stuff come to mind.
For sure, for sure. If not for tennis, what would you be doing today?
Soccer player or a doctor? I
Okay.
love the human body. I think medicine is great. Um,
Yeah.
I was predicted to be a priest.
A
No,
priest.
man. No, Mother Teresa was very close to the family. She's like a godmother to me. My godfather was the Archbishop of Calcutta, Father Leander de Costa, who I was named after. And as
Yeah.
much as I am a God-fearing man, and I am someone who believes in the superpower, and that's something very private, but I don't think I'd be cut out to be a priest, bud.
Okay. Your favorite city in the world?
And New York City, man.
New
I
York
love the
City.
city. Love that city. So much energy, some great stuff. I really miss actually walking into the East Village.
Yeah.
One of my favorite. I love music, and one of my favorite jazz bars is down there called Cafe Wah, and it's right down on McDougal and Bleecker, and I love that. I love
That's
that
right
city.
where NYU is. That's right where NYU is.
It's funny. My
Uh,
dad keeps talking about, when I was younger, he said, just because you're turning pro young, because you've been number one in the world in the juniors and you're going to turn pro young, you can always go back to college later. When you're done with tennis and stuff, you can always go back. Man, I'm 46. I wonder if I'm ever going to get back there. I mean, I would love to do a course at Harvard. I'll tell you that. I'd love to do like a sports management, a sports business course, just like you've done in your major, or you're doing rather in your major.
yeah.
I'd love to do a sports business course because I think that the opportunities in India are opening up to so many kids. It'll be great to share the knowledge with them.
Yeah. Okay, we have the last few ones of the rapid fire. What is the one thing you enjoy doing most with your daughter?
Playing tennis.
Playing
Uh,
tennis. Okay.
Ayana wants to be an Olympic player. She wants to be a pro tennis player. And in fact, we're looking through colleges, we're looking through tennis academies and things. And I'm so blessed with your family that you'll give Ayana such a great education at the Ambani school. And I'm really, really so happy with the way that Nita Bhabi looks after her and the school and Kavas and the principals and the teachers, the headmistresses. And the school, Chanchal sir taught her
Chanchal,
football,
so
and
yeah.
and can you imagine Kawas, who we both love to bully?
Yeah.
Can you imagine as me, my first Olympics in Barcelona, when I walked to the village and I came and I, greeted the chef de mission of the Indian Olympic team, and I paid my respects to them. They gave me my room key and said, "Your roommate's already there." So I thought I was walking into Ramesh Krishnan. He was going to be my roommate because I thought tennis would be together, table tennis together, hockey together, and all that. But when I got to the room, the door was locked. So I knocked on my Olympic room door, and a 6'7" or
Yeah,
something that he
huge,
is,
huge.
humongous. And he was like 5 times bigger, not 5 times, I'm exaggerating, but about 3 times bigger than what he is today because he's lost so much weight, Kawas. But he is so big back then. When he opened the door, I was so scared. I was 19 years old, and I just looked up at him. I'm like, "Hello," and he goes, I said, "I think I got the wrong room," and he goes, "No, you got the right room. I'm Kawas. How are you, Leander?" And I was so scared of Kawas back then. My God. But yeah, but Ayana's got a great education at the Ambani School. I'm so happy with the opportunity she gets there to be an athlete and to person coming in. But
Yeah,
basically, yeah. So now we're third
I,
generation Olympian, maybe. That's what we're working at.
awesome, awesome. I think everyone knows him in school as the gentle giant.
Yes, he really is. But don't ever let him drive your car. He has hammered one of my cars. I have no clue how Kawas got a license. And Kawas, if you're listening, that's the last time you get my keys, buddy.
I think Carl, his son Carl, is listening.
Yeah, Carl's
Okay.
awesome, dude. Carl was with me at Davis Cup in Bangalore, and we got some great stories from there. But what a great father-son
Awesome.
combination. Lovely family.
What would you do if you woke up as the following people? Jackie Chan.
Make movies. Make make a. I'm forgetting the name of the movie that he did with Chris Tucker.
Yeah, Rush
Make
Hour,
like
Rush Hour.
Rush Hour. Make
Yeah,
sequel after sequel of Rush Hour.
yeah,
I love that movie.
yeah. What would you do if you woke up as the original Mowgli from Jungle Book?
I was going to play this song for you later, but I would play this.
You have it ready. You have it ready.
Forget
You
about
just have
your
it ready.
worries and your strife. Don't need the bare necessities of Mother Nature's recipes to think about necessities of life. That's your song, buddy.
It's my song. I think you could be. I think you should be a singer after your tennis career.
Oh God, the bare necessities, Mowgli. That's it. That's your song and your nickname.
Awesome. So now let's move back to some of the serious stuff. I think your wins, your losses, highs, lows, all of these things teach you many things. So what was the best moment and the worst moment in your career, and what did it teach you?
It started with the toughest moments, right? Because those are the things that most people don't teach you. People teach you to stand on a podium and how to receive a trophy, how to splash a smile, or how to give an acceptance speech. Um, they don't teach you how to come on live on a show like this and speak the truth and really be raw and natural. But really, kind of being yourself, Mowgli, is the most important thing in the world. Because I think that um, being other people is going to be fake and people can tell. I think the world with all the social media going on and all the stuff going on, I think that to set your own example is the most important thing. To be true to your values, to be true to what you believe in. And for me, that realization has come many a time in my life because nothing I've ever achieved in my life has come easy to me. And I feel like in 1991, I just turned pro about a year before that. And in my 18th year, I think I might be getting the years a bit wrong here, but in my 18th year, I was number one in the world in the juniors. I only lost
Yeah.
one match that year in 1990. I lost the finals in Australia, but everything else I won. In 1991, Mowgli, I didn't win a match for 10 months. I left home, I left India in January, and by the 1st of November, I had not won one match. I had not even returned to come back home. because I left and I just started working and I started playing tournament and tournament after the other, tournament after the other. And week in and week out, the whole year went by. So I got so stale. I got so burnt out, as we athletes call it. I just felt that I wasn't sure if I wanted to play tennis ever again. And it was, I believe, the last week of October or the first week of November, one of the two, 1991. I was in a place in Germany called Wolfsburg, and I didn't have much money in my pocket. I had about 20 francs back then in my pocket and a return ticket on Air India coming back home. And I had nowhere to stay. I didn't have enough money for a hotel room. I was a very, very shy kid, very much like you were a few years ago. Now you're a complete bunda. But basically, back then I was too shy to ask my fellow mates on the tennis tour if I could share their room. So with 5 francs out of the 20 francs I had, I bought the locker room attendant a cappuccino. And in my broken German and his broken English, I explained to him that I needed to sleep in his locker room for the night because I didn't have a hotel room or I didn't have money for one. And he was very kind. And by the time he finished his cappuccino, he gave me 3 towels. And he explained to me, 1 towel for my pillow to rest my head on, 2nd towel to lay down as my bed, and the 3rd towel to have a shower before the other tennis players came in at 6 o'clock in the morning so that I could be ready before anyone else came in. I didn't sleep much that night, Mudit. I basically felt the hard yards and the stress and the pressure that an Indian athlete would have with not having the funds to pay for your hotel room or not having the entourage around you as most other aspiring athletes have. And that night, I thought to myself that never ever again will I ever be in this position to sleep in a locker room. And I ended up winning that week. I qualified over the weekend. I won that week. And when I came back home in November, I threw my rackets into the cupboard at home and I looked at my mom and my dad and I said, I'm never playing tennis ever again. And they both were so cool and so chilled out. They're complete masters of the mind, both of them. And my stepmom, Juliana, who was with me and my dad at that time, after 3 weeks, I asked her, I said, is dad feeling all right? Because he hasn't mentioned anything. So she turned around and she said, yeah, your dad loves you. It doesn't matter if you're a champion or not. So after 6 weeks, I went back to her again. I said, Dad feeling all right? Does he have a fever or something? And she goes, why? So I said, it's 6 weeks. He hasn't asked me about tennis, let alone being a champion. He goes, yeah, because you're your dad's son. We love you regardless of what. And after 8 weeks, I couldn't stand it any longer. So I went back to my dad and I said, are you feeling all right? And he goes, I knew you'd come around one day. So go pick up your rackets and go out there and work hard. Go get me that Olympic medal that you promised me. So that was Christmas of 1991. 5 years later, I got him his medal. It was pretty cool.
That's so inspiring. That's actually so inspiring.
And my
it tells
happiest
us,
moment was standing on that podium with my medal around my neck and watching the Indian flag go up right next to the Spanish flag and the American flag. It was amazing, that moment.
I'm getting goosebumps right now. I think
one day you're going to get one of these yourself.
Yeah.
This is the Olympic torch from Beijing. Out of the 7 Olympics I've played, I've got, I think, 4 of these now. Muhammad Ali actually lit the flame in Atlanta at the Olympic opening ceremony. And I've got the Atlanta flame, and that's in my other house. But this one I keep next to me. And my Olympic medal from Atlanta sits in my dad's house right next to his Olympic medal from '72. And I think that's just the right place to keep it, you know?
Perfect place to keep it.
One day we're going to get you one of these, buddy.
That's the dream. One day.
And as my dad told me when I was a kid, only then can you sit on the dining table with me.
So now you're allowed.
Until then, I'm going to call you Mowgli.
Oh God, I think I need to change that soon.
Your bare necessity is an Olympic medal. Not asking for much.
Yeah, that's right. So this actually brings us to talk about the mindset of an athlete. So how important do you think mental training is, and what do you do for that?
Ooh, that's the best question. I think it's a very neglected topic, Mowgli. I think that emotional fitness and mental fitness is the most important thing in the world. as athletes, we know how we're tested every single day in our job. You know, in most other jobs where you work for a corporate or you work for in a team environment, you have other people to lean on. But when you play an individual sport, there's nowhere to hide. Today, with all the digital cameras, with all the television cameras, with all the smartphones that are on there, everybody becomes paparazzi, everybody becomes a social media influencer. So hence, every single thing that we do is captured on camera. So I think that in that, the mental aptitude to design your life is very, very important, to be real to yourself, to be honest with yourself, and just to keep it natural. For me, a couple of the things I love doing is love walking the streets. I love going out there and enjoying the street cafes or enjoying street shopping or intermingling with the public and making a difference to them. But after a certain achievement, you're taught that, hey, you can't go out there. But I beg to differ. I think that the more natural that you keep it, the more human that you keep it, it's much easier to enjoy life, I feel. So hence, having that mental aptitude, not just to achieve greatness, but also to be humble while you're doing it, is very important. Also, the emotional aptitude, that just as, yes, someone could take a picture of me eating in a funny way and put it on social media, or someone could, I mean, they've taken pictures of my mom and me crossing the street in Calcutta, going to her favorite Chinese restaurant. And just as when I was a kid, my mom used to hold my hand. When I grew older, and my mom grew older, I always used to hold her hand crossing the street. And when I was holding her hand crossing the street, Mowgli, someone took a picture of me and put it in the front papers saying that Leander and his new girlfriend. And they couldn't even differentiate that was my mom. And it was just disgusting. But in that, also to have the emotional stability that regardless of what's out there on Wikipedia, or regardless of what's out there in people's perceptions, you got to be yourself. And you really got to be humble and be yourself, because the trick that my dad taught me is that the same people you meet going on the way up is the same people you're going to meet on the way down. So always be good to people. Always have that humanness to touch a life. It might take 1 second to change someone's life. A high five, not now because we're in, you know, this COVID-19 periods. It might become a low five by the time we get to it, but with our feet. But really, you know, a smile or a good day, or really asking someone, hey, how you doing, and meaning it is really, really important, you know. I've met so many great champions in my life, like Muhammad Ali that I said, or Michael Jordan that I talked about. And the uniqueness of people who achieve greatness is that they're great human beings as well. They're down to earth. They can really feel, and they have a lot of compassion. Because to achieve greatness, you've got to be very comfortable in your own skin. You've got to be very comfortable with your flaws as well. And we all have flaws. So that's my sense of timing is a bit tough, because I believe one of the questions that have come on there from one of our friends, and I'm going to get Atu for it, but basically is because we have so much that we have to accomplish in a day, sometimes timings become a bit of an issue, and it's important to keep to that schedule.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you've been able to do that way longer than anyone can even imagine to do so. You've played 7 Olympics, won multiple Grand Slams, even after you've turned 40. So how do you manage this how do
you
you
might be
manage
brave right now, buddy, because we're in lockdown. But remember, one day this lockdown's going to lift. I know where you live. I'm coming
I'm gonna
after
stay
you.
far away.
I might have to bring this and get you with it.
No, but Deepika Pallikal, our previous speaker, actually asked this. How do you keep on with this peak performance for such a long time? Something we all would love to know.
You know, man, Deepika is one of my favorite female athletes from India. I love squash. 2 is that she really puts her money where her mouth is, you know. And for me to see what she did, where she actually put her foot down and said that equal prize money for women in the national championships as for men, and I won't play till then. I watched the interview that you did with Deepika, and I think she's just a great champion. Both her and her husband are really cool, and I remember her husband came over to Wimbledon a couple years ago, and I got them some tickets to watch.
Yeah, last year she thanked you for that.
Yeah, they're a really cool couple, man. In fact, Deepika and me have a lot in common because I grew up in Chennai, I grew up in Madras, and I love that city. It's brings me back to my hard years where I ran on the Marina Beach, or I went out to snowfields to get some ice cream, or I studied at the MCC school there in
Yeah.
Chetpet growing up. I lived at Poes Garden, and we used to train there. So Madras is great, but um, I think when you actually look at your roots and you look at where you come from, like I grew up in Kolkata playing gully football, gully cricket, barefoot, playing gully tennis. I used to put a nada up on the street from two poles, and we used to play with like a sock, with our hands and tap that
Yeah,
around. Or
yeah,
we
yeah.
played football where we just built that sock bigger and put our chappals as goalposts, and we used to play football like that on the street. And I think that for me in particular, Mudit, where I came from, especially in the 80s, there was not much opportunity in India. There was not much infrastructure. There was no hard courts in India. There were no lighted courts in India for tennis. Even till today, in a whole country of 1.3 billion people and such vast land, we don't have one indoor tennis court. So in the monsoon, the reason I love squash so much is in the monsoons, we never could play tennis because it just rained in a tropical country like ours. It rained every single day. So hence I would play squash. I would have Adrian Ezra, or I'd have Ritik, or I'd have Saurav, buddies of mine are squash players. They would stand in the center of the court and just run me around side to side to side. And even nowadays, I play a lot of squash with Neil Raheja, another buddy of mine here in Bandra. But the motivation factor comes from learning from others. And the reason I've given you this long answer is that if you see the kind of people I surround myself with, guys like you, young, aspiring, fresh, hardworking, disciplined, it's so easy for you to rest on your family's shoulders and go into business, rest on your family's shoulders with the opportunity that you have. But the reason that I respect you, Mowgli, is that you go out there and you're standing on your own 2 feet. You go out there and you're trying to be the best you can be. To me, the respect I have for you, young man, is because you want to be an Olympic champion for India. And that is something that is very inspiring to me. So with all these great rock stars we have around us, I mean, you don't have to look far. I look in my house, I got my dad, I got my mom, I got my daughter. In my business, I've got people who are out there helping me, to transition from the professional athlete, as I'm on the one last row season,
Yeah.
into a businessman, to do a lot more webinars like this, to go into the corporate world and teach skills, just as we're talking about, because the skills you and I get taught are even more needed for the business world. I mean, just in this last 8 weeks sitting down, my back is stiff, my hips are stiff. For the corporate world, sitting there from 9 to 5 minimum hours every day, to go out there and work, to get physical fitness, to get mental stability, to get emotional happiness. Those are the call of the day. And I think guys like you and me can teach them a lot from the skills we learn.
Yeah, for sure. And as you said, you just coined the term one last straw. Why don't you tell the viewers what exactly that's about, and how maybe you might even play Tokyo 2021?
You've been pushing me hard, the last few days, and I love the fact that you've been motivating me and pushing me to play on Olympics. How friggin' cool would it be if you and I get to go to the same Olympics?
Yeah,
I tell you, if I get to if I
that would
get
be
to
a
the
dream
opening
come true.
ceremony of the next Olympics and you get to the opening ceremony of the next Olympics, I will say it live today. I will carry you on my shoulders and we'll march in.
That's
But
a
the
huge
Olympics
motivation
is
for me.
the Olympics is still far away for both of us, Mudit, because sitting today, we don't even know when our professions are going to start. We
Yeah.
don't know when the table tennis world will start playing. We don't know when the tennis world will start playing. I read this morning that the US Open, which is normally in the last week of August and first week of September, is adamant to make sure that they have the US Open this year. They've even thinking of moving the venue from New York to Palm Springs, to Indian Wells, because it'll be safer there, they think. But as of now, I find it very hard to believe that sport will start by July, August, September.
Mm,
Um,
yeah,
would it start
I
in
agree.
October, November? Who knows? But my team and I are very well prepared that when the lockdown does open up, we will reevaluate it then and look at one last draw as a season, whether we should move it to 2021 or not. I think a lot of it will be based around the fact that I've got a few more magical history goals to achieve. I've played 97 Grand Slams so far. And if I participate in 3 more Grand Slams, I'd get to participating in 100 Grand Slams. So that moves me. Also, getting to the 8th Olympics to make sure that India is forever on the top as the most number of Olympics played by a tennis player. That is a benchmark I'd like to push up. But really, if I don't ever get there, I'm still really happy with what I've done. I'm still really happy with having the career I've had. So the thing that I'm pushing now is in this last 8 weeks, while I've had to reinvent myself, Mowgli, I've been working with my dad a lot on getting his 50 years of sports medicine knowledge, his knowledge on being an Olympic champion, but yet being a doctor. And to put that together, Kamlesh, your coach, actually says we would love to see you in Tokyo at the Olympic Games. Cam, my man, it'll be awesome for all 3 of us to walk in together, buddy. I already said I'm going to carry Mowgli on my shoulders if we do. But Kamlesh is one of my favorite athletes in India. You've got one of the best coaches out there. He's a really humble, superhuman being, let alone a fantastic champion. But yeah, now I'm focused on taking our knowledge, taking my 30 years of knowledge, and putting it in a curriculum and putting it in a portal and getting it out to the masses so we can teach fitness, we can teach mental fitness, we can teach emotional fitness, we can actually teach good, healthy living. Because in a country like India, where most of us are more cerebral, most of us are more intellectually inclined, more study-based, I feel that a few of us stand out, like my family stands out for physical fitness, for mental toughness, for emotional happiness. And that's not a curriculum that's taught that easily. So for me, I would like to put that in a portal and get it out to the masses to make India not just an intellectual race, but also a healthier race, a happier race, a more physical fit race, so that we can eradicate a few ailments that we actually lead the world in. India's #1 in the world in diabetes. India's #1 in the world in obesity. And these are the few things that are so easily eradicated or reduced just from playing sport, just from running, just from eating right, just from looking after your day-to-day lifestyle. It doesn't take much. It just takes mental toughness and a little emotional happiness to find foods that are fun foods. A lot of people actually, the few webinars that I've done, they thought this was cola, but actually, no, a friend of mine, Apurv, he just introduced me to this. It's cold pressed coffee. One of the things that I had to be careful of is I love cola, and cola is not something that's good for all of us, So I got into cold pressed coffee, which is really cool. So Apurv, thanks so much for introducing me to it.
Yeah, so I think a lot of us as athletes have very strict diets, but that surely doesn't mean that we don't love our food. So that would be something very interesting actually for India. But how do you see the future of Indian tennis in the next couple of years? This is the last question.
Man, Indian tennis has come a long ways over the last 30 years, and I've tried to prove to Indian athletes cross sport. I've tried to prove to Indian kids in any walk of life that if you work hard and if you have enough passion, like you and me talk about, I keep trying to inspire you with the passion to be you. Because it's so easy to get off and rest on other laurels because you're a smart kid, you got a lot going for you. But to keep that passion and desire burning to achieve your goal, to put your magic on the world. As long as that fire burns really deep, keep going after it. Because one of the tricks, Modit, is that I'm not the most talented athlete in the world. I am not that tall. I'm not that gifted with my backhand. But I think that champions are not the ones who are necessarily the most talented. Champions are the ones who have the desire and the passion to achieve their goal and continue along that path. They pick their lane, they set their goals, and you continue through all the triumphs and disasters, through all the ups and downs that life throws at us along the journey, to continue along that path to achieve your goal. Sometimes it's a battle of the fittest. Sometimes it's the battle of which person wants it more. And I think that is really the story of Leander, is that you don't necessarily have to be the most talented in the world, or you don't necessarily have to be the tallest or the fastest or the quickest and all that. You just have to be the best student of life. You've got to be able to adapt and reinvent yourself for the occasion to be the best version of yourself in anything that you do.
Indeed, I think hard work is surely something that all of us should surely strive towards, and it'll help us in our own ways of life, I think. And here's announcing actually the giveaway for this session. So if you could ask the viewers and thank them for joining the live by just asking them a question, and whoever answers the question first gets this lucky giveaway.
All right,
Any
so
question
I
you want.
see a bunch of my friends here. Huh? I see Gagan's here. I see a bunch of my friends. I can see Sanjay Devnani here, and a lot of these guys would have the answers, right?
Yeah.
But really, I'm going to try and ask a tough one. Hmm?
Okay.
In the Atlanta Olympics, or shall we raise the stakes first? Let's raise the stakes. So apart
Okay.
from what Mudit is giving away, I will add to Mudit's gift, and I've just come out with a one last raw merch. I've made a shirt which has my Flying Man logo on it. It also got all the Grand Slams that I've won and the Olympic I've won in chronological order in the years I've won it in. And it says one last raw on it. So I will add a one last raw jersey to whoever this winner is, and I'll send it to you, Mudit. You can forward it on when the lockdown opens up. But the
Yeah.
question
Thank
I'm
you so
going to
much.
ask you is, to everyone out there, in the Atlanta Olympics,
Yeah.
who did I beat in the quarterfinal match
Yeah.
of the Atlanta Olympics? The first answer wins the prize.
Okay,
Who
guys,
did I
you
beat
heard
in
that
the
clear. Yeah.
quarterfinal match of the Atlanta Olympics, 1996?
1996 quarterfinals. Who did Leander Paes beat in the to make it to the semifinals? This is gonna be interesting. We got
Andre
the first
Agassi
answer
says
in.
Ashish, nope. I
Okay.
lost to Agassi in the semis. Pete Sampras, no, that's a good guess, couple, but I actually beat him in the first round. I was supposed to play him in the first round. Sorry, he didn't show up, so I beat Richie Renneberg instead. Parth says Melangeni, that was for the bronze medal. Man, these guys know their stuff. Melangeni was was a bronze medal match. One match before that, before I
Fernando.
played Agassi, Byron Black, no, Chang, no, Renzo Furlan, Nick.D.7 won it. Renzo Furlan. I have a
Okay,
guess he
awesome.
might have gone to Google. Either which way, Nick,
Nick
you're
D,
gonna
that's
have to DM Mudit and give him your address, because Nick.D.7 just won himself Mudit's prize and a one last row jersey. Well done, buddy.
congrats, Nick. Congrats, Nick. So it was truly an honor having you, and our next speaker is going to be Anirudh Thapa, one of India's aspiring footballers. If you had the chance to ask him one question, what would it be?
Anirudh's a young one. He's 21 years old, right? Something like that.
22, yeah, yeah, yeah.
22 years old. That's awesome. Okay, so Anirudh, here we go. Growing up in front of a Sunil Chetri, growing up knowing the Baichung Bhutias of the world, growing up knowing the Sunil Chetris of the world, looking at the way that the leagues are in the country and the way ISL is promoting young soccer players, what is your ambition in your life? Who and what do you want to be in your life? That's my question to you.
We'd love to know that from Anirudh. But today we've learned a lot. We've gotten inspired, motivated, and we've learned to believe. So thank you so much for agreeing to join this live and for all your answers and your time, especially even for the extra giveaway. So thank you so much. Thank you for this. It was really an honor having you.
Mudit, you're a young champion. I love you, and I'm going to rag on you and call you Mowgli the rest of my life till you win me an Olympic medal. And anything that you ever need, ever, both in your sport and off of it, just know Leander's always in your corner. And I'm a big supporter of yours. I love catching up with you. You got a big smile on your face, and I think you can make a big difference to India. So keep up the great work, and I'm going to leave you with our song.
My big home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some
I
honey
think
just
that
for
was
me.
by far the best live that we've had, and
Glance, take a glance
I
at the
really just
fancy
enjoyed
ends and
having.
maybe try a few. The bare necessities of life will come to you.
Come to you. They'll come to you.
Bare necessities.
See you, buddy. Lots and lots of love. You be well.
Thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you